Thumbelina, full fairy tale audiobook. Once upon a time, there was a woman who dearly wanted a child, but had none. One day, she went to an old witch for help and asked her what she should do to get her wish. "That's easy," said the witch. "Here's a barley corn. Plant it in a flower pot and see what happens." The woman thanked the witch and planted the seed. Almost immediately, a beautiful, large flower grew. As the petals of the flower opened, the woman was amazed to find a tiny little girl sitting inside the blossom. The girl was no bigger than a thumb, so the woman called her Thumbelina. Thumbelina lived happily with the woman, sleeping in a walnut shell bed, using flower petals as blankets. She was gentle, kind, and loved to sing in a sweet, high-pitched voice. However, her peaceful life was about to be interrupted. One night, while Thumbelina was sleeping, an ugly old toad hopped through the window and saw her. "What a lovely bride she would make for my son," the toad croaked. Without hesitation, the toad snatched Thumbelina and carried her to a muddy pond. The toad placed Thumbelina on a lily pad in the middle of the water, leaving her stranded. "This is where you'll stay until the wedding," the toad said, as she left to find her son. Thumbelina cried and felt so helpless. As she sat alone, some little fish swimming beneath the lily pad saw her crying and felt sorry for her. They nibbled at the stem of the lily pad until it broke free, setting Thumbelina afloat down the stream. Thumbelina drifted far away from the toad, relieved but still lost and alone. As she floated along, a large beetle flew by and saw her. "What a pretty creature," the beetle said, scooping her up and flying her to a tree. But when the beetle's friends saw Thumbelina, they laughed at her. "She's so strange looking. She only has 2 legs and no wings," they said. The beetle, embarrassed, quickly decided to abandon Thumbelina in the forest, leaving her all alone once again. Poor Thumbelina wandered through the forest trying to find her way. She ate wild berries and drank from the dew on the leaves. But as autumn turned to winter, the cold became unbearable. One day, Thumbelina found a small hole in the ground, the home of a kind field mouse. The mouse took her in and gave her food and shelter. "You can stay here with me for the winter, but in return, you must help me keep the house tidy and tell me stories," said the field mouse. Thumbelina gratefully accepted the offer and spent the cold months with the mouse. One day, the field mouse said, "We have a wealthy neighbor, a mole, who comes to visit often. He's blind, but he's very rich, and he may want to marry you." Sure enough, the mole came to visit, and though Thumbelina found him unpleasant, he was enchanted by her beauty and agreed to marry her. Thumbelina, however, did not want to live underground with the mole and never see the sunlight again. But she felt she had no choice. One day, while walking through the mole's tunnels, Thumbelina found a swallow lying still on the ground. It seemed as if the bird was dead, but when Thumbelina looked closer, she realized it was only cold and weak. She wrapped the swallow in a blanket of leaves and took care of him. All through the winter, Thumbelina nursed the swallow back to health. When spring arrived, the swallow regained his strength. "Thank you for saving me," the swallow said, I am ready to fly again. Come with me. I can take you to a warm land where the sun always shines." Thumbelina thought about her upcoming marriage to the mole and, without hesitation, agreed to go with the swallow. The swallow flew high into the air, carrying Thumbelina far away from the dark underground tunnels. They flew over mountains, rivers, and fields until they reached a beautiful land filled with flowers. The swallow gently placed Thumbelina on one of the flowers. To her surprise, in the heart of the flower was a tiny prince, no bigger than Thumbelina. He was the prince of the Flower Fairies, and he was captivated by Thumbelina's beauty and kindness. "Will you be my queen?" the prince asked Thumbelina. "Yes," she replied happily, for she had finally found a place where she belonged. The prince placed a tiny golden crown on Thumbelina's head, and the flowers around them bloomed even more brightly in celebration. Thumbelina and the prince lived happily ever after in the land of flowers, surrounded by love and beauty. As for the swallow, he flew back to his nest, where he sang Thumbelina's story to anyone who would listen. The end.